It's time now to do some gardening. We're going to show you some foods that are easy to grow, but the best part, they're also high in iron. We're going to do so with master gardener, green thumb guru, Ed Sourdiffe. Ed, pleasure to have you here.
Good to be here.
We have an array of fruits and vegetables and herbs that are really high in iron. Let's start over here with parsley.
Yeah, parsley's great for your blood. It has a lot of iron. If you need iron, 1 cup of parsley has 4 milligrams of iron. And the great thing about parsley is if you have a mature plant and it's growing, you can actually get 1 cup of parsley every 3 weeks from a plant if it's healthy and doing well.
And that's about what a recipe for tabbouleh calls for. So you make one of those, which is always high in tomatoes and parsley. You'll have a good amount.
Yeah, you will. And actually, there's a really good way of getting a lot of parsley into your diet. You can actually make a parsley pesto, which is what I've made at home, and it's really tasty.
Huh, that sounds fantastic. And it regrows, it's easy. Does it die off in the winter?
Yeah, it wouldn't survive the winter, but you could keep it in a cold frame outside and have it longer, or you could actually put it on your windowsill at home and grow it through the winter too. And you can actually go out right now. I just purchased this parsley plant, and it's a really mature, nice plant. You can actually go out and buy them now. Now, if you bought something like this, you'll see it's in like one of those coconut pots here.
I've been noticing those. There are a couple dollars more. Is that a good thing, though? Is it worth it?
Yes, it's because it's biodegradable. Also, once you plant it in the ground, the roots will just penetrate right through here and go seeking out nutrients in the regular soil. The only thing, like with a peat pot or this kind of pot, you have to make sure that this lip is below ground. So you could actually trim that down a bit with scissors and then plant it at its regular depth, and then it'll be fine.
So that it's not higher than the soil level?
Yes, because then it will wick out moisture and then it'll keep drying out the plant.
I kind of want to run home now and fix mine that are the way that you described them not to be. Talk about corn.
Corn is perfect. We're actually getting some native corn in the area right now if you haven't grown it yet at home. This corn actually has niacin, which is vitamin B6.
And that's for the absorption of iron. It helps, right?
Well, C does help with the absorption. B6 itself actually helps make red blood cells.
And all these things work in concert to really help your blood be as good as it can be. What about cabbage? Cabbage
has iron and it has vitamin C, and the vitamin C actually helps you absorb the iron.
How difficult is growing cabbage?
Cabbage, I think, is relatively easy. I actually grow, and I let you have some this year, late flat Dutch cabbage, which is a really nice old heirloom. The leaves are very creamy, and they're perfect for coleslaw. They're just, everybody always raves about the coleslaws when we make that with that. It's like relatively easy. You just put it full sun. You give it a rich soil, compost again. It'll keep your plants healthy. They can fight off any fungus and a lot of insects. And you can even use a lot less, if you have to use a pesticide, which I don't think you should really, you can use a lot less of it, because even though the outside leaves get really tattered, torn, and maybe bug-ridden, you'll be surprised when you peel back all the leaves that you have the perfect head inside that nothing got to usually.
So it's a perfect protector for it.
Yes, it is, really.
Now, watermelon, also a good choice if people are thinking about donating blood today.
Yes, watermelon actually has lycopene in it, and that's what you find in red fruits and vegetables. Lycopene actually aids in circulation, so that's another blood-related thing.
And it looks cool in the garden, too.
It does, it really does.
Watermelons growing, and these have gotten expensive lately.
Yeah, they do, they are. So it's really nice to have. And I love these kind of plants because, like the pumpkins, they actually make a great ground cover, and they have those big yellow flowers, so it actually looks pretty even before you have the fruit.
Speaking of things that look pretty, what we have here is neat, because we see a lot of green in the garden, but these are some brilliant different colors over here.
Yeah, this is Swiss chard. This actually has iron, and it has vitamin A and C in it. I actually brought this because you're always talking about the Swiss chard, so I thought I'll bring some in for Seth. So
Thank you.
Yeah, you can see this is the adult form that's actually being harvested now. And this is, you can just go out and you can still get little sets of this, and you can actually put them out. It's only 60 days to the maturity with Swiss chard.
So you can have it now, and by the dog days of summer, by the end of the summer, you can be eating full-grown Swiss chard.
Yes, and you can actually pick this from 6 to 8 inches tall. Then it's ready to go. If it ever got to be a foot tall, you want to cut that back to the ground, let it grow again, because it gets weak. It's not a good tasting thing then.
Huh. And it lasts for a while, and in 60 days we can have some, and that's what it looks like, full grown.
Yep.
Now over here we have some more exotic things. Move the Swiss chard out of the way. Is this ginger in here?
Yeah, this is ginger root, just like you get at the store. What I did, I bought an organic ginger root, because sometimes they will coat the ginger root with a chemical that will prevent it from sprouting. So I got an organic one that did not have that. I just planted it in the soil, maybe about an inch under. I kind of showed a little bit of the ginger root. You can see the sprout comes up. And then as it comes up, if you're going to grow this at home, what you're going to want to do is put this in a bigger pot with a bigger edge, a lip around it. And then you can actually add more soil in. As it grows taller, you add another inch of soil until you get 6 more inches of soil. That'll actually help the ginger root form bigger, and it will actually support the stalks of the ginger.
How do you know when it's time to pick the ginger?
Well, you can pick it at the end of the year. And actually this will go, if you don't actually use it this year, the whole plant will go dormant on you, and you would just stop watering it, keep it slightly moist and in a cool place, but not cold, and you'll be able to start the whole thing over again the next year.
And lastly, what do we have here?
This is actually lemongrass. This is big in Thai cooking. This is, it actually has a lot of iron in it also. Have you ever smelled the leaves of this?
No, but I would love to.
If you just rub your fingers on it, it's going to smell really lemony. So this is something that would get really big. It has really a nice structure to it. The leaves here, they're really pretty. It will actually get to be 6 feet tall. And this is something that cannot survive outdoors here. So what you would do, you can either buy a little plant like this, or you can actually go to a store that has fresh lemongrass, you know, the little stems, if you've ever seen them. Soak them in water, they will actually root out, and then you can put them in soil. And then what you would do to actually harvest this from the outside, when the plant gets bigger, at least about an inch big, the stems, what you do is you would take a sharp blade and you would actually cut the edge of the stem here about an inch above the ground.
Well, Ed, unfortunately we're out of time. We can finish talking a bit about this later, because later in the show with Ed, we're going to make sun-dried tomatoes, and that might just have the most iron of all the fruits and vegetables in it, so I'm looking forward to that. Welcome back to Mass Appeal. We're back with Master Gardener, the green thumb guru himself, Ed Sourdiffe. Earlier we talked about plants that are high in iron, but now we're going to the #1 on the list, and that's sun-dried tomatoes.
Yes.
But they start with the tomato plant. I know a lot of people, myself included, are doing tomatoes this time of year. What should we be looking for right about now, mid-July?
Well, what you're going to do to keep your tomatoes going good, you want as much sun in your garden as you can, so full sun. You also want to keep the moisture content of the soil constant. They don't like to be dry and then wet and dry and wet. That's where you get your cracked tomatoes, actually. So it would prefer that. Also, if you're going to be watering your tomatoes, don't water in the evening. Water them during the day so the leaves can dry, and preferably just use a soaker hose or something like that to keep the water at the roots. Because
Could we water in the morning?
You could water in the morning, yes, and it would dry all day. You try not to splash the soil up on tomatoes, because then you get pathogens on the leaves. So you would try not to, yeah, and then that would be fine. This is actually a Juliet tomato. It's very nice and meaty, and it's a nice sweet tomato too. And
you have some coming in full, I see now, that have turned red.
Yes, those are, actually this plant looked a lot better till I got it in the car as it rolled around, and I've lost all the fruit here.
Which is why you shouldn't drive around with your plants.
No, you should keep your plants at home.
Keep your plants planted, but sun-dried tomatoes, it's expensive in the store, but they're relatively easy to make on our own.
All you need is the sun if you're going to do it the traditional method, and if you're going to do the traditional method with the sun, it's going to take you 3 days to do. I can show you now how to do that. What we would do is we'll take a couple tomatoes. I'll give you one.
Are there a beneficial kind, or will any do?
Any will do, but something that has a little bit more pulp. The real flavor in a tomato is in the pulp of the tomato, not so much the outside. It's really the pulp that has the real flavor.
I didn't know that.
So what we'd want to do is, if you had you had the stem end we just took off, so we'd want to take the knife and we would want to at least get rid of the stem end, so you won't be drying that. You can cut it either, just core it, or you could actually just cut off the top. And then sometimes at the other end, usually, especially with heirloom tomatoes, you'd have another little scar here from where the blossom was, and you would just take that off. This one doesn't seem to have that much. And so now what we're going to do is we would actually, we can probably quarter this tomato. You want to make your tomato into about 2-inch
chunks?
Chunks, yeah. And then what you're going to do next is, although we have the pulp in there, we want to get rid of some of those extra seeds if we can. So you would just try to leave as much pulp in and try to get the seeds out. And then we would just.
And there are some tomatoes that have less seeds than others. I know the Roma tomatoes are some that don't have as many seeds.
Yeah, so that would be a good one to use for this. And so now our tomato is, we had the ends cleaned and we actually got most of the seeds out. There's just a nice layer of pulp in here. So now if we were going to do the sun-dry method, all we would do now is get a screen, like you would use at home, a nylon screen, not like the old-fashioned aluminum or metal screens. You don't want to use any kind of metal with tomatoes because they have acid in them, and that will react with the metal, and that won't be a good thing.
Oh, okay.
So then if we put them on a nylon screen outside, we would place them down with the cut end down, like that, and then they would actually help drain them. And then we would put that whole screen out in the sun, elevated, so the air can get around it. And then we'd actually cover that with cheesecloth, and cheesecloth just looks like gauze. And you just put that on top, a nice layer of cheesecloth.
To keep any pests away?
Yes, it'll keep everything away from it. It'll keep the tomatoes clean. And then what you're going to do is leave that outside and let it drain. And you want to pick a day, so you look at your weather report, and you're going to find a day that, or a group of days that has low humidity and is a high temperature, and that's the best. You don't want it to rain or anything like that because the process will stop. So then you leave it outside. In 1.5 days, you'll take the tomatoes on the screen and you'll flip them the other way and put them back in the sun and let them go like that. And so what you're going to eventually end up with is something that looks like this here. And you can see they actually just split this in half. There's still some seeds here, but it's nice and dry and it'll keep well. So that took about 3 days. If you don't feel your tomatoes are dry enough, because New England, we have a lot of humidity, you can just leave them out a little bit longer.
Now, Ed, what if people wanted to do it in the oven? You said it's a 12-hour process?
12 hours, yeah, 12 hours in the oven, 3 days outside. The oven, you just do the same thing. You will actually cut your tomatoes, take off the 2 ends, get rid of the extra seeds. And then what you're going to do in the oven, you will actually find something, a non-aluminum pan again. So what we have here is a Pyrex pan. And you would actually just put the tomatoes in upside down again, let them drain a little bit. And then you're going to turn your oven to 170 degrees, and you're actually going to leave the door open. And this is actually, if you're doing it in the house, it's probably a better thing to do in the fall and the winter, but you can actually do it outside. If you bring your little toaster oven outside, you can do this outside, leave the door open.
There we go.
Yeah, or use your grill and you can prop the top open, make sure it's 170, put the heat on the other side and the tomatoes on the side with the no heat. In a pan like this still.
Well, Ed, these are great tips. I know come August, a lot of people out in Western Mass, they're going to have more tomatoes than they know what to do with. So sun drying them's a great way to go. And if you want even more gardening tips with people like the Green Thumb Guru, visit us online, mymassappeal.com.